This driver right here ruined one of my clients' game for a very long time. And the more I think about it, the more I think it ruined a generation of golfers' games as well. Is it because it's a bad driver? No, actually, it was one of the best to come out at its time for certain golfers. The biggest issue was who was actually reviewing this driver at the time, giving it the popularity and hype. Well, people just like myself. Guys, how you doing? Welcome back to a brand new video. Simon here at SAS Golf Academy, and let's talk about arguably one of the most popular drivers to ever have come out, the Cobra King F9. Back in 2019, a lot cheaper than all the other big brand drivers, and in testing for certain golfers, performed incredibly well in terms of speed and distance. But in hindsight, when I look back at this driver now, when it got the popularity and hype of when it released, I was thinking, how many golfers wrongly bought this driver, not knowing it's actually going to hurt their game? And it's due to a club fit of mine recently where... Editing Simon here, and yes, that is burning my eyes just as much as it is burning yours. To the point I was thinking about doing this whole video all over again, but my first take's always better than my second, and I guess I'll just have to promise you guys I won't look like being dragged through a hedge backwards in future. He came in with this exact driver build, complaining that he wasn't getting consistency, he wasn't getting distance. Everything also wanted to go a lot more out to the right-hand side. Very much like that. And I want to show you what I built him into, why I gave it to him, and how he's now hitting the ball not only further, but a lot more consistently. Because let's be brutally honest, in 2025, the only thing separating you from finding your perfect driver is knowing what head type you need, what static loft you need, and what shaft you need in the end of it, which is exactly what we're going to cover quickly in this video. But let's be honest, covering every single head type that's come out over the last 5 years, every single shaft combination you can get into those drivers, and also analyzing all of your golf swings to find that right setup is almost impossible to do in one YouTube video. Which is why I'm extremely excited and relieved to say that the course designed to do just that has finally been finished and uploaded to my website. I'm going to keep this plug very simple and quick, as we're going to talk about a lot of the aspects in this course throughout this video, as I always feel giving out information for free is ultimately the cornerstone of why this channel has been doing so well over the last 3 years. However, I have put all of that 12 years worth of knowledge in one place. Not only that, you'll have my contact number to WhatsApp me questions, messages about your driver game, your driver combination, as well as feedback, as this is my first course, and I'm humble enough to know that it won't be perfect the first time round, so therefore I want to make sure anyone that purchases it gets the most out of it, even if it means direct contact with myself. It's $34.99, and for the first 100 people that support me and download it, I'm also offering a free driver online lesson where I analyze your swing front to back, give you tips and drills, and a personalized video back of me showing you what I feel will help your game the most, whether it's distance or dispersion, or potentially a bit of both. I think we should start with head type, because nowadays we almost see 3, if not 4, different head types come with every single release of driver. For example, the new Cobra lineup has 4 different head types, whereas this F9, don't get me wrong, phenomenal head for certain golfers, but it only came in one head design with interchangeable weights at the front and back. And we'll cover loft and we'll cover shaft in a minute as well, but let's just talk about head design. The bigger the head, or the more weight that you put at the back of the head, the more this head wants to bend on this shaft on the way down. And of course, shaft plays a part in this as well. But again, putting shaft to one side, if you have no weight at the front and loads of weight at the back, it wants to add loft. It wants to increase that dynamic loft at impact. Or you can take draw bias heads that have more weight at the bottom heel here. So if you do leave the club face a bit too open, you see the right hand side of the fairway more. Again, having the center of gravity at the bottom here wants to again close that face on the way down. The issue is the F9 came as the F9. There was no forgiving head. Like the Speed Zone, the one after that had the Speed Zone Extreme, which again, for that slower player that needed help getting the ball in the air, maybe isn't the fastest in the world, that head design would have been a lot better for my client than this one. The irony is this got massive acclaim because of the price point and what it was doing for reviewers like myself. And of course, we would have reviewed it against head types like this, for example, which was almost £150 more expensive than the F9 that I have here, because we have decent speed, because we have decent path, because we have decent club face control. We don't need the ball up in the air. If anything, these heads help us reduce our spin loft, meaning that we gave it all rave reviews because it was doing everything all the expensive ones were doing, but a lot cheaper. However, that message, I felt, didn't come across to the general public back in 2019. It was like, this driver is great for everyone, regardless of path, regardless of angle attack, regardless of centerness of strike. And I actually saw this great graphic from Golf WRX back in 2019, actually talking about the best drivers of that year. And they broke it down to club head speed. And in the high echelons of club head speed, so 100 miles an hour or 95 miles an hour at least plus, you can see the F9 in there. Don't get me wrong, it's got a touch of forgiveness, especially if you put this weight port at the back there. Most overall forgiving drivers, i.e. the ones that are helping shots out to the right-hand side, this didn't feature. What featured? Forgiving heads that had the weight at the back. Draw bias heads that also helped close the face on the way down, as a good portion of us don't want the ball to go right and couldn't really care less about our spin loft. What I'm trying to say now, and what I really try to hammer in through my course, is that it's never one component. It's never just the loft. It's never just the head type. It's never just the shaft, but it's the combination of both. Looking at the bottom of the driver, I didn't really need to see his numbers. You can see how the paint's been worn off, as this driver would have been coming steep into the ground, taking that paint off. You can see the direction of the scratches were coming out to in, and more likely than not, the club face would have been open due to that kind of swing plane down into the golf ball. Which is why I want to show you the exact build, including the shaft, which we'll talk about in a minute, for that particular golfer that's now hitting it a lot straighter, a lot further, ironically, even though the elements in this driver has increased his spin, but potentially increased them to the optimum level. Sometimes we feel adding backspin is going to hurt our drive. Well, not necessarily. We're going to keep this simple for now, but he had this mid-launch, mid-spin shaft, which in terms of profiles, and we won't go into profiles too much, but overall, mid-launch, mid-spin shaft, pretty decent. However, we see a 6 and we see an S on the shaft there, meaning it's a 60-gram shaft, stiff flex. Regardless of what brand of shaft you have, whether it's a hazardous, smoke black, or an Aldila red, for example, which are very opposite in terms of kick point and everything else, a regular flex version of those shafts will always have a higher torque and a low kick point versus the stiff or the X-stiff versions of them as well. What does torque do? Torque closes the face. So if we have a weaker flex in our driver shaft and our bad shot is out to the right, if I have a weaker flex, a higher torque, that club face on average wants to close more, which means keeping everything the same in terms of technique. And this golfer's working on his technique at the moment with myself, because obviously technique is so important in getting more distance and better dispersion. But keeping the technique the same, that's why I put this shaft in this particular driver. It's why I chose this particular head type as well, because we need the club face more closed, we need more launch, we need that ball more up in the air. So that, yes, it leaks a touch out to the right, but at least it's still somewhat in play. Why I chose this regular flex 55-gram tensile blue. Slightly lighter. The regular flex means it's going to have a higher torque to help close that face, but we didn't go super, super light, and we didn't go A-flex in the driver shaft, because again, that would help his ball not go much to the right, but then potentially we're adding too much backspin. For that particular golfer, if he was even slower than he was, then that could be a route to then go down. You can get driver shafts at 40 gram. You can even get them at 30 gram. Rule of thumb, the lighter the shaft, the higher the torque and the more it's going to want to go out to the left-hand side. Especially if you pair it up with a very forgiving draw bias head on the end of it that wants to complement that turning of the face as well as keeping that ball somewhat up in the air. Which is the last component, and obviously Loft, he had a 9 degree, and again, is right to obviously loft it up. If you loft a driver up, it also closes the face, which would have helped his push slice to the right. But we went one step further, 10.5, somewhere in the middle. And again, we lofted his up and went to D section, as you can see here, to again close this face for him. And it's one of the great things about adjustable drivers now in 2025, or at least over the last 10 years or so, you can adjust the loft. We lofted his 10.5 up, and in 2 months' time when we work more on the path and more on the club face, we could loft it back down again, because potentially all of a sudden he's now hitting these shots where they're now going too high, too much out to the left-hand side. We don't want as high spin loft as he currently has. Again, the point is I hit that F9 almost 300 odd yards plus at the start of this video. Is it a bad driver? No, it's a phenomenal driver with the right shaft, with the right golfer, with the right loft. However, if I tried to put that same swing, 114 miles an hour, with this setup for me in this draw bias head, 10.5 degrees, reg flex, 55 gram, I'm more than likely going to see that shot. That spins too much and obviously comes down to the left-hand side. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out the website on that course if you're interested. As I say, you will have one-to-one contact and feedback from myself. Let me know what you thought of this video. Catch you guys later.